Hello everyone, and welcome back to the channel. My name is Alex. Thank you so much for watching this video. Our topic today, setting up acoustic presets within your favorite Fractal device, whether you're on the FM3, FM9, or Axe FX3. Now, like most of us, I primarily play electric instruments through my modeling devices, whether it's guitar or bass, but there comes the occasion when I need to dabble in the acoustic realm, and the Fractal is more than equipped to make that happen. So what we're going to do today is we're going to talk about each of the components that go into building a preset and how to tweak those to your liking, because every guitar is different, as well as every situation that you may come across. Let's dive right into the setup. So here we have our FM3 edit window, a perfectly clean slate for our acoustic preset setup. This entire video, I'll be using my Maton Tommy Emmanuel Signature Acoustic straight in with an instrument cable into input 1 of the FM3. So the first thing to do in this setup, input and output. Let's gauge what our guitar needs. And that is the most important thing because, as I said, every guitar is different, every situation is different, and you're going to need to know what you have to bring in and pull out of your specific acoustic guitar preset to get the most out of your particular situation. So first up, we are going to add an input block and an output block at the end of the grid. And just connect them and see how this guitar sounds. Absolutely adore this guitar. So I'm loving hearing what I have here, but as we could hear up front, the signal's rather low and the signal doesn't quite have what we need to get projection and our point across just yet. So think about this when setting your level. Set it between 50% and maybe 70% of your total output if you have onboard EQ. This will allow you to increase or decrease the volume per your needs. You will have some adjustment capability if you have bass, treble, or even mid controls on your acoustic preamp. And it's very important to do so because every live room is different. No matter how you tailor this in the lab, you may have something that is required of you that you didn't foresee when you're in there. So take that into consideration. Now that we've confirmed signal coming out of our guitar into the Fractal device and through to the output, it's time to start adding things to the grid. The first thing I'm going to add is an amp block using the tube preamp. Now at entirely stock settings, the level is incredibly low here. So what you may need to do at first, just set everything to unity. To just get you a ballpark sound. This is not the end game, but it will help you dial some things in. From there, you can take your bass, mids, trebles in the ideal section. If you need to cut superb lows, you have an extra cut switch, which is tailored around 120 Hertz. Need a little bit more brightness or shimmer, you have that option here as well. Don't be afraid to push the master volume a little bit or the level. This is an acoustic guitar. It doesn't have the same sort of output capacity as an electric. There's going to be differences in preamps and things. Don't be afraid to twist some knobs. You're not going to hurt anything. So right off the bat, we have more level, but we don't hear distortion. We don't hear these added artifacts. This is a really great way to amplify your signal. We're going to come back to this block in a bit. But next, we are going to add a cab block. So the first IR that I have pulled up is called Totally Flat. It is the final entry in the stock IRs, and it works great for this. If you just want the sound of your acoustic guitar pickup, whether it's a piezo, mic system, undersaddle thing, this is great. It just gives you more of what you want, which is in your guitar. Know that you may have to adjust the level accordingly, but again, just another way to cleanly boost your signal without coloring things or adding artifacts. Great. Now we also have more extensive options for low cutting, high cutting, whether you're in the filters tab for the preamp section, or you're just straight on the IR. Now here's where this gets fun, at least for me. My second set of IRs here is from Acoustic Free IRs. I have been using these for years. My friend Wesley hipped me to these when I started modeling, and they have really changed the game. Whether I'm playing a piezo-laden electric, or I'm playing an acoustic steel, even acoustic nylons, if I'm going for a faux mandolin sound, the sky's the limit here. And it's really great. They have such an amazing repertoire and catalog of things, and completely free. So any presets that I make, I'm using this, at least in tandem with the Totally Flat, if not exclusively with this. So what I have pulled up here is a Maton EBG-808 with a K&K pickup system. And as you can see, everything is set pretty flat, but the sound will change significantly. Wonderful. It has its own character now, but it's the character of that pickup in that guitar. I chose this particular guitar and pickup system based on Chris Carrabba of Dashboard Confessional, who many of you may not know is an exquisite acoustic guitar tone seeker. And some of the greatest acoustic guitar tones on record are on those later Dashboard Confessional records. It's pretty stellar. I recommend putting on In the Shade of Poison Trees in headphones, first track. You'll know exactly what I'm talking about. But I digress. Now that we've dealt with the cab block a little bit, and we've got our IRs pulled up, let's go back to the amp block and dial things in a little bit more forensically. So as you can see here, the tube preamp is now a little bit more tailored. I'm using my stock starting point in my blocks library for acoustic pre. The master volume is up to 7. The bass is down a bit. The mids are up just a hair, and I added a little bit of depth on the back end. It works well. If you go into the input EQ, I've rolled off 70 Hz on the low end and 8500 Hz on the high end. I don't need quite that amount of brilliance when strumming, but you can always go in and tweak this. Certain guitars may be warmer, or you may need, for a session, a little bit more brilliance and a little bit more shimmer. It's always a great place to do that on the input EQ coming into the tube pre. We will come back to the output EQ section in a moment, but first, let's get us some more consistent leveling with our compressor blocks. So first up, we have the Studio FF compressor at the front end of the chain. This is where I default, but there are many great types of compressors within the FM3, and even more in the FM9, and of course the Axe FX3. You can do anything that matches your playing or anything you're comfortable with, whether it's a stomp box, a rack unit, maybe you're in the studio and you're used to modules. You've got it all here. You have everything you could need to get a great compressed signal. We're going to stick with the Studio FF compressor for now. What I like to do is bring some of these parameters into a more realistic state. So I take the release time of the compressor, I drop it a bit to 63.5 milliseconds or thereabout. I remove the auto makeup gain, as you can see, quite a bit, because I don't want that thing moving. I would rather put the level to about where it would have been, but not have it flutter and look ahead and figure out what I'm doing. I just want a nice consistent level. Then I can bring this in and out as I so choose. I usually like having the compressor on if I'm in a full band mix, regardless of my playing style. But if I'm a solo performer or it's acoustic driven, I really like bringing in the compressor for fingerstyle and finger picking style playing. Then I take it out for when I'm strumming, and it keeps things nice and level. So without the compressor, we have our fingerstyle playing. And with it. This is a game changer if you're a fingerstyle player and you're doing folk stuff. Compressor at the front of the chain helps bring that level up to a respectable level. You're going to dig it, I promise. But one thing to consider is utilizing this mix knob. If you're into having a lot of dynamics in your playing, maybe you're a solo performer, you're doing solo acoustic fingerstyle stuff, the Andy McKee, Antoine Dufour, Stephen Bennett, Dawes Camp, it's really great to have a lot of dynamics and to have that dynamic contrast, being able to go from really soft to really high and bring people in and out dynamically. In that case, you want to take the mix knob, mixing in your compressed signal to just support your dynamic playing. You're going to want that below 50%. The more you go up, the more of the compressed signal is in there, and the less of the standard uncompressed dynamic signal will be left. So I really like keeping this in the top 75 to 100% range when I'm doing finger picking stuff. I just want it to be a nice beam across. But if I'm doing solo acoustic things, I usually set this around 37.5%. It gives a nice bottom and bedrock of support, but it still leaves a lot of that nuance in level. After we've dealt with the initial compressor, the tube preamp, some cab IRs, and anything else you'd have in that sonic shaping territory, we have the multi-band compressor. This is a great way to keep all of your EQing really nice and uniform, like the leveling compressor we have at the front end. This is a great active EQ that will attenuate things a little bit. As you lean into the lows, as you lean into the mids or highs, it'll take some of those down and keep things nice and uniform instead of these peaks and valleys. The only real thing I like to do here is change the crossover frequency, usually between 200 and 240, and changing this crossover frequency to 1200. So our lows are now everything 200 and below. Our mids are 200 to 1200 or thereabouts, and everything 1200 and above is affected by the highs. So with this engaged, you have this really nice 3-band active EQ that will pull things down if they get too aggressive, too unwieldy. So whether it's your guitar being unbalanced, some guitars are lower or higher frequency dominant than others, this will help pull those things in or out as is necessary. Diving into my blocks library, I've pulled up the acoustic comp. As you can see, the crossover frequencies have changed slightly, especially in the mid territory. We're just under 300 hertz. But most significantly, the levels on each of these parameters has changed. They've gone up considerably between 2.5 and 4.5 dB on each respective level. This will help bring a little bit closer to unity gain for your guitar signal. And as you can see, the knob started fluttering a little bit. This guitar is incredibly even across the spectrum, very full, very rich, but not overbearing in any of the ranges. Not all of my guitars, or not all of the guitars out there, are like this. Take that into consideration and implement a multi-band compressor block. Another thing that can be very helpful for attenuating your levels is having a graphic EQ between your cab IR and your multi-band compressor. These settings are pulled from a Cooper Carter video from a long time ago about setting up his personal acoustic. I have this saved in the blocks library as a nice way to start with a V, accentuating a few lows, bringing out some unwanted mids, and coming back for the brilliance of the pick attack and strumming of the high notes. So that off, again, sounds like this. And on. But make sure that you go through this 10-band variable EQ and go through each of these faders. Find the treble frequencies with your guitar or the things you want to bring out and adjust accordingly. Make sure to A/B that with a completely neutral setting. And again, we do have a level control at the end of our chain, so when we dip some of these things out, if you're using this to toggle in or out, or maybe you just need more gain, more level rather, to get to the end of the chain at unity gain, there's a nice level control there, and you can cascade your leveling throughout your entire grid. And now that we've done all of the mono effects, all of the EQing and sound shaping of our guitar, it's time to move into the fun frilly garnishes of the modulation and spatial effect territory. First up, we have a chorus block. Maybe you need some light chorusing to just make that guitar sound a little bit bigger. That can work wonders in a mix, whether you're recording or in a live setting. Maybe you're doing 80s covers. Throw chorus on it, you know? That's the thing. Chorus pitch detune is another really great thing to do, just 5 cents plus or minus, and that would sound like this. Just a very simple detune, just adding of a chorus that doesn't oscillate. That might be an answer as well. You can bring that in or out at your leisure. Next up is the enhance block. This helps stereoize your signal, widening it into a stereo field, so you will need both outputs for this. This is a nice way to fatten up your sound, whether you're recording or in a live setting. Just know that if you're not on the modern type, if you're on classic or you're on the stereoizer, you are going to run into phase issues if you start summing things to mono or you're only using one side. The difference in having that in and out. Can be very useful in a studio recording setting. Next up in our chain is the digital mono delay. This is just set to 33 milliseconds and helps fatten the sound a little bit. Just a nice little fattening thing. You will want to put this in particular in front of the enhance block because it is a mono signal. And I was incorrect in setting this up so quickly for this video. Thank you for your patience. And last but not least, we have our music hall reverb. You can use any reverb that you would like, but this is where I like to start for my acoustic playing, and it adds a nice squish to playing, whether you're strumming or fingerpicking. Adding a nice lush bow on top for any acoustic playing needs. Well, that about does it for setting up an acoustic preset within your favorite Fractal device, whether you're on the FM3, FM9, or Axe FX3. I hope you get a lot out of this, and I hope this is helpful to you, whether you're an electric player dabbling in acoustic stuff, trying to utilize your Fractal rig for everything, or maybe you're a full-fledged acoustic player and you have a Fractal unit or you're looking to get one. This is a great way to dive in, get started, and have fun. Go add different modulation effects. Have some different pitch effects. You have so many options within the Fractal system that the sky's really just the limit. This is the beginning of a really great tonal journey. If you liked this video, there are plenty more videos throughout the channel that you can enjoy. There are Fractal 101s and tutorials of tone, gear reviews, playthroughs, lessons, etc. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you all next time.